have the thing open. I had us talking, so be quiet for a second.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to Nerd Fights! The ultimate showdown where geek culture collides with unfiltered opinions and passionate debates. I'm your host, Mr. Know-It-All, bringing you the latest and greatest from the world of movies, TV shows, and all things nerdy. But hold on to your warp cores because the real captain of this starship is none other than Salty Trekker. So strap in for a wild ride as we're going to discuss Agatha All Along, plus take your questions on this open mic Nerd Fights. You don't want to miss it. That means only one thing. It's time to fight. Nerd Fights.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Nerd Fights.
Hey, everybody.
I am, of course, one of your hosts, Mr. Know-It-All, and joining me, as always, is Salty Trekker, the captain of this starship. We are absolutely excited to get to talk more about round two. This time it's Penguin against Agatha. Penguin finally dropped its second episode. It felt like it was forever.
And then, it did. That's because it was such an odd way to release the first episode on a night that they're not going to normally do.
Right.
You know,
like, what's that about? Like, why do that?
By the way, I do want to say, because we should address the 1,000-pound bantha in the room. So, like
I've been called worse.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the title of the stream on my channel. So it's the final episode of Nerd Fights. And so, just to make things clear, so we have been working on reorganizing things. And so there is, this channel is, if you're on the channel formerly known as Anti-Trekker, Salty Trekker, Nerd Fights, this channel is not going away, but it's going to just focus on the theological stuff that I talk about. Mm-hmm. So we're going to rename this channel sometime between now and next week. There is a new Nerd Fights channel.
Officially, like an actual Nerd Fights channel.
Right, and so that channel will only have Nerd Fights content. And so that channel is live.
We are live content.
Yeah, we are live on it now, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, because I remember
the link is in the description. I put all the links in the description for all the places. It's got my channel, Salty's new channel. Well, formerly Salty and Pepper, now Salty Plus, and then and of course the new Nerd Fights channel, which is actually, if you just want to know, it's youtube.com/@nerdfighting. Again, there is an existent Nerd Fights channel that is not us, and it isn't anyone actually. So
whether you have 8 subscribers,
you think so, and no,
hasn't posted anything for ever.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, we were so excited to be seeing everyone, and thank you so much, Planet X. I love you. Mwah.
Yeah. So and here's the funny thing, Planet X. I did get your Twitter, and in fact, I told Mr. Know-It-All about that earlier today.
He did. It was cool.
And so thank you so much if you're still here, because I know he put that in an hour ago. So and I don't know if his schedule didn't allow him to be here, but if you're here, Planet X, yes, thank you. I did relay the message to Mr. Know-It-All already. And you know what? There was no hard feelings.
None. No, you're good. If anything, it's funny. I actually said that whole experience helped me realize that whereas I had ideas, and we're still doing a lot of stuff. I realized I need to pull and be more like part of this audience, because you're right. I think there's a world and an experience that I wanted to keep it core, true to the DNA of what the show's been forever and
Right.
ever. Just sort of improving some things like the flash and the glitz. That's really it. So thank you for always. Everybody should feel welcome to criticize, critique, so long as it all comes from a place of love and making things better. I'm down. You'll never offend me. So thank you very much.
And for those of you that have posted recently about how they miss Danny, we miss Danny too.
Lots. Very much.
It's not that Danny is like banned from the channel or anything.
In no way, shape, or form.
Yeah, he's got some stuff to deal with. Oh, Planet X is here, so thank you. He's got some stuff to deal with, and once he deals with that stuff, he is more than welcome to come back. We want him to come back because he's fun to fight with.
Absolutely, and by the way, that goes for a lot of other, like we'll have guests as this thing starts to finally get back up to speed the way it should. We will absolutely start having people on again and this and that and whatnot. We're working on reaching out to somebody right now, a fan classic, if you will, and we're trying to get him to pin down to some time to come join us and whatnot. But yeah, so we're going to always have the floor open to some folks, and would absolutely love to have him back. The question was asked, and I skipped it real fast by accident. How did Danny link up with Mr. Know-It-All? Through Critic List. If you guys down in the description, you'll see the links to Salty's Critic List, my Critic List, and the Critic List is it's sort of the alternate option to Letterboxd. Letterboxd is like super pretentious way of like reviewing movies and collecting and seeing what movies you like, and then Critic List is like us. It's all of us human beings with actual opinions who want to sit here, and we're not trying to review bomb. We're just trying to say I hate this, I love this, I sort of thought this was okay, and they're not going to beat you up about your opinions. They just want people to have an opportunity to talk film, like you used to, like normal.
Speaking of hate, have you seen Joker 2 yet?
So I have not, but I have heard from several very close sources, friends of mine who that have watched it. I've heard three kinds of reviews. The first kind was it absolutely sucks and is horrible, and how could they ever do this? The next one was it is brilliant in its subversion, which is obviously we're all fans of that term.
Yeah, code for Ryan Johnson.
Those people sound exactly like all the Ryan Johnson defenders back in the day. In that, if that's what you're into, by the way, awesome. And then another group that I've heard recently today, this was not a Joker movie, and that Todd Phillips was always making Arthur Fleck movies, and that it was about Arthur Fleck and being mediocre and his vision of whatever. I know nothing about. I mean, that's a lie. I do know. I've read spoilers, so I am aware of what the movie has in it. But it's not. I don't know. What, have you seen it?
No, in fact, it's funny. Me and the wife were going to see it yesterday, but she wasn't feeling that great, and we were like, you know what, this movie looks like it sucks anyway, so we just canceled our tickets. And so I mean, that's how. Looking at the trailers for this, like the more they reveal about the movie, the less I want to see it.
We need to do that thing you talked about doing, or I don't know if
the unviewed review
kind
of thing. Yeah,
you need to do those.
So here's my unviewed review of the movie: is that it is a completely unnecessary sequel that rehashes stuff from the first film and inserts unnecessary and, in fact, rather jarring musical numbers just to make it a musical. And I think that it's just a musical because Lady Gaga's in it.
So okay, my version is there are two things happening. There is the musical version, and then there's the story version, and those two things never jibe quite right.
Right.
And then of course there's the surprise ending, which spoilers, if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil for you. There is a surprise ending that sort of shocks everything. And also I guess there are some things they did that were disingenuous when it comes to how the movie was promoted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, okay. Because apparently characters don't turn out to be who you think they are. And I don't mean that from the main character. I mean other characters in the story. So
and the thing is like, and in fact, like you mentioned that it's really more of an Arthur Fleck movie than a Joker movie. And, it's funny because we watched it because we were planning on seeing it yesterday. Since my wife wasn't feeling up to it, we didn't go. And so whenever we go to see a sequel, we usually watch the original movie the week before, and so we did watch Joker just a few days ago.
Oh, okay.
And the funny thing about rewatching Joker is that it is a really good movie, but it's, unfortunately it's just not a Joker movie. It is a movie about a guy who's abused and beat down, and then finally decides to try and take revenge on the world. But it's not the Joker.
Yeah.
And so don't get me wrong, it's an excellent film, and I have to say that oh gosh, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. The guy who plays Joker.
Oh, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix absolutely knocks it out of the park as far as playing a person with severe mental illness and going through it. Man, he's convincing.
Right on.
Every time he laughs, and you can, I've never seen a character be able to give, through laughter, emote so many different things.
Yeah. So apparently in the first one, he there's an actual disorder where people will laugh rather than trigger other emotional whatevers. Right. And so
and he carries around a little card to tell people that, if they're looking at him because he's laughing at them.
Right.
And so he can hand them the card and say, "Please forgive my laughter. I have a condition."
Darren Wagner said, "My feeling is Joker 2 was created solely so Lady Gaga can get an Oscar." I think it's hilarious that they think because you're right. I think that someone announced, I saw it on social media, they were
for best original song or something.
Oscar run for this best supporting something. And I'm like, no, I'm with you.
You know what? I think I give better chances to M. Night Shyamalan's daughter.
Yeah.
for
no, absolutely. Absolutely. ABJ says, saw Drinker's review. Mostly he says it was his merit, but mostly detracts from the first. I saw the same review. I also agree with that, by the way. Yeah. Oh, God.
So it is the problem with unnecessary sequels. There are unnecessary sequels that are great, like Empire Strikes Back. Right? Because Star Wars is a complete story. I mean, it literally ends with the feeling that the Empire's been defeated and everybody's giving each other medals because they're so happy.
No, I agree. Real quick,
and then
Kevin Davis says people are using excuses, good or bad reviews shouldn't stop nobody from seeing this film. Kevin, I absolutely agree with you. I think everybody needs to go see their own and make their own opinions.
Yeah. If you see, and this is what I've always said, if you see the trailer and the trailer's like, I want to see more of that, then screw the reviews, go see it.
Absolutely.
If you see the trailer and you're like, oh, that looks horrible, then don't see it.
So
screw the reviews.
So what's funny is, for me, that was what Venom was like. As a comic book fan, Venom is so intrinsically tied to Spider-Man that I didn't understand why they were making single malt films, meaning making villain movies, whatever. But then it did well, and I was still like, so then the second one was coming out, and I was like, maybe I'll give it a shot, and the trailers didn't do anything for me. This third one, even with the concept of what they're trying to introduce, still didn't do anything for me. So those are the reasons why I haven't seen those movies. That has nothing to do with reviewing them or anybody else who likes or doesn't like them. Like, that's, so by all means, you're 100% right. If it doesn't do nothing for you when you see the trailer, then don't watch it. But if you're curious, go see it.
And if you're on the fence, that's when reviews can come in handy.
Agreed.
But you got to find critics that you paid attention to, and you know that your tastes align with theirs, or your tastes are the dead opposite of theirs. So if they say it sucks, it's good.
True.
And so if you find a critic that you can really gauge how they're reviewing a film, then that can help you make that decision, because movies ain't cheap.
No, for sure. Although, have you heard this thing? And by the way, we're going to get into the reviews and stuff in a bit. I just we're kind of shooting the breeze a little bit in the first thing here. Have you seen this thing that just came out? Apparently, a report in Variety, there's a consortium of studios, specifically, I think the big three studios, are trying to potentially start putting together focus groups about potential future projects. Now, there's a whole litany of people who are like, this is the worst thing ever, movies by committee. And they bring up things like Snakes on a Plane, which was an internet-based movie idea that took off.
Right.
And I, for one, I don't know that. So and the hope is it's Disney leading this charge clearly because of like Star Wars and whatnot. There was an article even in Variety where they were asking the question, does Disney know how to run Star Wars? And they had a crap answer. And so the whole point is, what is it you want? Now, my problem, and then someone online was like, back in the day, Jack Kirby and these guys didn't ask what the audience wanted, and I had to correct them and be like, well, no, they didn't, but they were also defining a giant of a category that had no definition at the time. These studios don't care about, and they were making original things. These studios don't care about making original things. They want you to tell them, what are you going to spend money on? Because I swear that's what we'll make. And they're going to try to do that. The problem you have is there is an actual disconnect with all audiences. And I don't mean just what they're making. Star Wars is going to go talk to those people. And those people are going to, in turn, tell them, we want stuff that's more diverse and this and that and that and this. And then those people are never going to show up. And the people who are pissed off at Disney aren't going to bother being a part of this focus group to tell them anything. They're going to be like, we've already told you, look, go to YouTube. Okay. And so still nothing's going to come from this thing. So everybody who's worried that we're going to suddenly get fan-made sycophantic movies, trust me, Hollywood doesn't learn the right lessons ever.
So a couple of things. First of all, Mr. Planet X put another $10 in and says that you are all good. Yeah.
Oh man.
Now I can't tell which channel he put that on, but
I know he was on. I'm assuming it's probably the one. It's got to be one of them. Hang on.
Oh yeah, it's mine because I can see it over on mine. Okay, so
you
did it right then, Planet X. Yeah, all super chats should go to me because
right.
What you don't know is Mr. Know-It-All's filthy rich. He's like,
man. Mrs. Know-It-All's laughing upstairs. I can literally hear her while she's watching the show. She started laughing. The one who's ABJ says, I'm one of those who's repulsed by nihilistic protagonists and settings, so I stayed away from the first Joker movie. Yeah, I
have a problem with nihilism to a point. I will say this. If I'm going into a story knowing it's nihilistic and prepared for that, I'm okay. But at the same time, it has to be a really good story to get me to want to see a nihilistic story.
Aravic says, "Nice background, Salty Trekker." I know, isn't it cool looking?
Yes.
When he was putting it together. By the way, that's not a screen, and that's not a.
Yeah, this is physical. That's
a physical thing.
See, yarn.
It's legit.
Actual pictures pinned to the wall.
When he was making it, he sent me a picture, and I was like, "This looks amazing."
Yeah.
Like it's the triple timeline theory in a visual format.
Yes, this is the triple timeline theory. This is the rough draft. Eventually, I'm going to make a bigger version. But the only problem is the red up here is very dark, so I need to replace that because you can't really see. This is the.
You almost have to, for camera, go with like an orange and just let that imply red. Because even the yellow and the green are a tad or yellow. Are they both yellow, or is it your bottom one's green?
No. This one's yellow and this one's green. But it's the same problem they had with Star Trek: The Original Series. Yellow and green show up very similarly on camera, and so a lot of people didn't realize that the uniforms were actually green, not gold. But they came off as gold because of those 1960s cameras, and so then they just kind of went with gold.
That's right. Hey, Darren, I actually have a bunch of sidekicks. They're Mrs. Know-It-All, Baby Know-It-All, and sometimes Puppy Know-It-All. And so, yeah, I'm used to that. Trust me.
Oh, Darren's just trying to diss me is all.
No. I know he is. I totally get that. And I love Stanley points out it looks like a detective board. It absolutely looks like a detective board.
That was my original thought. In fact, we were talking about it. I said, oh, man, I should get a cork board and, and put yarn and pictures and stuff like that for my background. And then I was thinking about doing put Pedro Pascal in the center and a piece of yarn going to Star Wars, another piece of yarn going to the MCU, stuff like that.
We need to get one of those just for when that time comes around.
Yeah, when Fantastic Four comes out.
You just change the board out, and it's literally him. Because Pedro Pascal is like 6 degrees of Disney. He's in everything. Yeah. And it's like, let's go, bro. So I love it. But speaking of detective stuff, I think it would be fair to say that we're going to get into right now talking about The Penguin. Episode 2 of The Penguin, which is funny. Everyone else did 2 episodes, so Agatha's on episode 4 by now, and Penguin's on episode 2. It
No,
dropped last
Planet
week.
X with another super chat, but this time it's not on my channel, which means
Oh, hey.
Eddie put my apologies. I super chatted on the wrong channel. No, 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 no. You super chatted on the right channel, except for this time you super chatted on the wrong channel. You get
Right on, man.
yeah.
No, again, I appreciate you. Okay, so this week's episode of this crazy show. So real fast, if you're not watching The Penguin, that's fine. There are many people out there who have tried to articulate that it feels like this, it's that, it's whatever. I don't like, and it's oh my gosh, someone said what you said, Salty, which is
There's the
I don't normally
Sopranos.
like bad guy driven stuff.
Yeah.
And then I sit here and I go, well, if you look at The Sopranos didn't try to make Tony Soprano a good guy or someone to root for. What they did was they made him human, not understand. Like, he was still a bad guy. The guy shot people. He ordered people to be dead. Whatever the heck. He did all kinds of horrible things, and they never shied away from it.
Right.
But they showed him in therapy. They showed him dealing with family issues. They showed him trying to juggle and navigate different aspects of his life. And I think that's what pulled us into the drama. That's what Penguin's dealing with. This episode was, I saw another reviewer call it spinning plates. He's having to do so much, and watching him sort of gobble up what he can was actually pretty interesting.
Yeah. And ABJ, if you ask me which network is Penguin on, it's on Max.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's actually on HBO. Like, they're apparently.
Well, yeah, but it's streaming on Max. If you have HBO, like if you're old and you have cable, it would be on HBO. If you're young and you stream, it's on Max.
So the big difference is that HBO has its own budget versus Max that has its own budget. So this show's being produced just like Game of Thrones was, full blown by HBO proper.
Right.
And some people are saying that's why it
looks so good, and
right. That's why it's got so much care. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that. That makes I get.
Well,
that.
because honestly, these makeup. I mean, this is film quality makeup. There is no real noticeable difference between the makeup in this and the makeup in The Batman.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And in fact, they improved on it by. In episode 1, it was a bit much, but they improved on it they showed Penguin full on butt naked in one scene. And I was like, holy crap, that looks real, And because Colin Farrell is not a fat, scarred up, pot faced man.
No, and not like with all and nor is he got the little curly hairs like very like.
Yeah, all over his body.
Yeah, he looked. I mean, this looked like stupid good. I was blown away.
Yeah, and so I've said before, and I maintain this movie should definitely get the Emmy for makeup.
For sure, it's amazing. I'm pretty Max. Never heard of it. I love you, ABJ. Yeah, totally. Anyway, it's the place to watch HBO.
Yeah.
That was their slogan in the beginning. It was the stupidest slogan. But so this episode, it goes through. They're at the funeral of Dude finally. Yes. And it goes through as Oz is
finally. It's episode 2. Come on,
I know, but it's like it feels like so much has happened.
Right.
Like it really does. It's crazy.
And these episodes. Another thing that I like about this show is, unlike the Disney Plus model, these episodes are long.
It's designed for this format.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And they tell a whole cohesive story. Like every episode tells its own. You follow its own set of things, though it's still part of the big plot.
Although Agatha's doing a better job, but the episodes are still a little short.
They are. But at least they're consistent. It's not like the first episode's 15 minutes, second episode's 30. They're all pretty much between 35 to 38 minutes, which is really what your average hour-long TV show would be with commercials.
Yeah.
So with commercials, everything with national commercial, everything else is normally 44 minutes, and then local avails allow for the rest of the time before you get to news at the top and bottom. So that's some little broadcast background knowledge. But and so it makes so when they were in the show, you're seeing him have to navigate. Everybody is out to find out what's going on. He's sort of playing the Maronis and the Falcones against each other. But then at the very end of the episode, spoilers if you haven't seen Penguin, what are you doing here? He has managed. They actually kick Sophia out. Her uncle, who's now running the family, is like, why don't you go do something nice? Maybe go take a vacation. Like he's like literally treating her like a child. And even though she used to be apparently the hangman,
right?
She was a hit person called the Hangman who killed a bunch of women. And it's like, oh, like I.
But you see, and the thing he's trying to do though is Sophia, because Sophia is completely unhinged, But she and her brother have this new drug that's apparently going to, make quite the splash on the streets. So he's just trying to manipulate her enough to get the drug so that he can become the drug lord of Gotham.
Right.
And at the same time, pitting the families against each other so that their drug trade suffers while he's building up his. He's being extremely clever.
He really is. No, he really
Yeah.
is.
And he's a master manipulator.
Also, I didn't realize this until this episode. He's talking to Sophia, and he mentions, so a couple years ago, before my mom died.
Oh, yeah, because he keeps his mom hidden.
I didn't realize that. I knew she was hidden and that he took a different car, but I thought that was so nobody followed him. I didn't realize he flat out makes sure everyone thinks he has nobody.
Right. And that's again, him being very smart. He doesn't want people saying, I'm going to come after everybody you love. Well, if they think his mom is dead, even if they get him, his mom is safe.
Sure.
So yeah, I actually, one of my big pet peeves when I'm watching movies and TV shows is when smart people do stupid things.
Stanley says, I'm shipping Penguin and Sophia.
I don't want to see that. That's bad. So you may know that this coming Friday is a horror movie coming out called Smile 2.
Yes.
Okay. So last night, I've never seen Smile.
Oh, really?
No. And so not last night, the night before, my wife and I watched Smile. She'd seen it before. And this does relate to what we're talking about with Penguin.
Yeah, no, go for it.
So Smile is a brilliant concept of a film. But the main character is a doctor, a psychologist, an expert in mental behaviors and mental health.
Right.
And the second she realizes what's going on, she sounds like a mental patient. And she's running around going, no, it's after me, and it's not, and she's acting exactly like one of her patients that we see at the beginning of the film. And
Got it.
And the problem is, if you're an actual psychologist and you're talking to other psychologists as she does in this film, you're not going to approach them like that. You're going to say, look, I understand that we've always dismissed these kinds of things as being psychological, whatever, but we need to do a thorough investigation on this because I really do think there may be something to this.
So in this, you get to see Sophia in Arkham.
Yes.
You get a flashback to her time in Arkham, and I'm sorry, but I had the feeling that was a grossly inappropriate psychologist or therapist. He's using this red hypnotic light thing, which, by the way, that shockingly right out of the comics. As Todd Phillips was being skewered by the internet last week or a week before or whatever for saying, we're not really trying to pay attention to the comics, this and that. That red line aspect is actually something that was introduced in I say recent, but a few years back by Tom King.
Okay.
Into the Batman mythos, and it's that when these guys are being looked at by the talk to and the therapist in Arkham, there's that red line that's supposed to be there to help them sort of be calm. And so he had this device because it's a thing in real life. That's why it was introduced in the comics. That's why they had it here. I just love the connection there. But he's like, they show him later after she's gotten out, going to visit him in therapy, and he's very like touchy and handsy and like whispering in her ear. And I'm like, bro, why are Arkham psychiatrists so skeevy?
Well, Arkham is just a horrible place.
It is. I don't know how that place exists right now. Kevin Davis says HBO will get Emmy nominations for House of the Dragon and Penguin at next year's telecast. My only concern is Netflix. Disney will still overshadow it next year's telecast. It could possibly. You might be right.
I could see. I think Disney. Honestly, I think Netflix and Disney will probably get a lot of technical awards for like visual effects, music, stuff like that. Sure. But honestly, I haven't seen anything on Netflix or Disney as far as just pure quality of acting and everything to compare to Penguin.
I agree.
And Penguin runs away with it as far as makeup is concerned.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure. House of Dragons is more than likely going to get the visual effects. But it's also possible that Disney sneaks away with the visual effects if they come up with something I mean, probably not for the Acolyte, that's for sure.
Anthony
but,
Marks says, excellent strategy to making the new channels. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we're doing hard to think through all this stuff and make the best choices for
We're
everyone.
doing hard to think.
We are. We're doing hard to think. We're doing very hard.
It's like,
Doing very hard.
we think hard, do.
All that.
Yes.
It's very it's legit. Stanley says maybe the Stranger Things finale will deliver.
I have completely lost interest in Stranger Things after like season 2.
I liked the last season. This feels like a complete why. Why did they extend it this long? Why did they hold on? Not even why they extended it this long. What are you thinking? Waiting years between these things. Any of the ooh is gone. Waiting for that crap. Alex Boogie says making an anti-hero by the way, thank you for the super chat. Anti-hero like Tony Soprano, Joker, or Penguin, the protagonist will make them sympathetic no matter how evil or misguided. See Cisco in DS9. I can agree with that. Absolutely. But I think it's less about sympathetic and more about understanding. By that I mean I don't need to sympathize and go, I understand why Penguin is like this, as much as I sit here and go, oh, I get it. I understand Penguin gets what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's full on. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm protecting my family. I'm doing this, and I got a goal. My goal is to own Gotham. Okay, cool. I get where your motivations are. The other thing they're doing very cleverly, and I watched another show that pointed this out, because I don't want to sit here and take credit for stuff when I catch some good ideas, is that most of the bad things he's done have been to other bad guys, which as the audience allows us to kind of transfer mentally and go, oh, okay, I know he's a slime ball, but right now he's only hurting slime balls. Now, eventually he'll be the guy who holds the city hostage for whatever reason or faces off against Batman with whatever. But anyway, do you think they'll ever actually bring in an umbrella or something along those lines?
I don't know if they're going to do the umbrella thing. I think he'll get a cane at the very least eventually, because he's got that exaggerated limp already.
He might also be like, I don't want a cane. It makes me look stupid. And somebody's like, well, what about
Yeah, then he could say, hey, well, what about an umbrella that's functional?
Fine.
And
I would love that.
Yeah.
Somebody else on a podcast I listened to said, what if he tried like he's got a pair of glasses on and gets punched or something and there's just one ling is left. This is an Easter egg. So he gets the monocle for all of a second, and I was like, that would be funny.
And he happens to be at a costume party where he's dressed in a tux, and
totally. I love Stanley goes, and he should have a cigarette holder instead of cigars. I agree. I feel like the cigars are a cheat, so he's got something he smoked because you can get the long thin cigars. But I'm with you. I would love to. I'm like, dude, give me the pretentious cigarette holder. Let's go full blown 1940s or 1930s.
Now, I do want to address though what Alex was saying in the super chat.
Yeah, go for it.
I am actually one of those people that tends to not like stories about bad guys. I really don't. I never could get through The Godfather. I know it's supposed to be a masterpiece of a movie, but I don't like it. I couldn't get through season 1 of The Sopranos. The gangster type entertainment has never, ever appealed to me. Now, I think the reason that I can get into Penguin a little bit more is in part because I know more about the greater DCU, and I know that Batman is out there.
Right.
And one thing, and I'm fairly confident that eventually, it may be in the Batman 2 or or in a future season of the Penguin, sooner or later we're going to have a showdown with Penguin and Batman, and I'm going to be rooting for Batman.
So my understanding from because Todd Phillips has come out and said they are looking to do the Penguin, who Oswald is by the end of this. This will literally go right into the next movie. So because I guess in the beginning of the next movie, Penguin is there to set up and open that new movie.
Right.
He's not the villain. He's just gonna, he's not the main guy. I don't think, but
I would guess they're gonna do some kind of version of the Joker or something. But
well, I don't know. Maybe we don't know that. We don't know about. They've introduced a character that could be the Joker, but we don't know if that's full blown what that's going to be. So and we'll see.
But yeah, the Penguin. And I liked his role in the first Batman film. So he doesn't need to be the main villain. He just needs to be a presence in Gotham. He's known to be You know, and if they do it right, I think that like the series is about him basically pushing out the quote unquote normie mob, you
Sure,
know,
sure.
and him basically becoming the crime kingpin of organized crime in Gotham.
Right. It's
And
this, and I think if they do it like the comics, he'll allow each of the families to stay doing. They just all have to now pay up.
right.
You know what I mean? It's like you can all do your
And
thing and own your corner. You just got to throw a bone my way.
right. And so, but knowing a little bit more about the Gotham mythos brings
That
me
was
into
right.
it.
Stanley
And
said. Stanley said Matt Reeves, not Todd Phillips. You're absolutely correct.
yeah.
I am getting my rogues mixed up. Thank you so much for that. You're right.
But yeah, you know, I do think that's what brings me into it is that even though the hero's not on screen, I can feel the hero's presence in the story.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
And and to me, one thing that's very very important is there needs to be a hero. And one of my big
Eventually, yeah,
problems,
we're gonna have to have one.
yeah,
I agree.
one of my big problems with things like the Last Jedi is the fact that they completely undermine all the heroes. They make the heroes into grayed out, you know, morally ambiguous characters. And to me, a hero is supposed to be good, a villain is supposed to be bad. Now, I know that earlier Alex mentioned Deep Space Nine with Cisco. Cisco was not a bad person. He's a good person that, in a couple of circumstances, was forced to do bad things, and he, you know, it warped him a little bit. It warped his
Sure.
perspective a little bit, and you could see that it was painful for him, and that's a good thing. You know, but at the same time, Starfleet and the Federation and all that still needs to be a symbol of good, right?
I'll go with that.
Which is one of my big problems with Discovery, is that Discovery turned Starfleet into almost a, you know, a fascist dictatorship of an organization in comparison to the Starfleet we've seen in almost every other version of Trek.
Agreed. I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, and so until all of a sudden they go to the 32nd century and Starfleet is a vision of hope, and it's like it didn't seem like it before when they had a bunch of people in a
Seems so
dark
hopeful.
room with condemning you for, you know, betraying the principles of Starfleet because you tried to prevent a war, you know. So I just
Prevented you from betraying the principles. I love it. You gotta say it with the accent, though. You gotta say it with the accent, though.
yes.
So,
Yes, Michael Burnham, you're guilty. You know,
why is Quark doing it? I'm
I
kidding.
don't know, but you know,
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
it just yeah.
ABJ says he thinks you need a different villain spotlight in the Batman movies. I agree. I think you do. I would honestly, I would love for them to do any other villains than
Like villains
than
that have not been seen.
any of them. Give me fine. You know what, you cowards? Figure out how to do Mr. Freeze right, because I'm sorry, us having Arnold Schwarzenegger as the final Mr. Freeze we ever saw in live action screen, no.
You know,
Cannot stand.
if this were 15 years ago, I would say Patrick Stewart is Mr. Freeze.
Oh, that'd be dope.
You know, unfortunately, you know that's not going to work. But yeah, I would like to see. You know what would make a good Mr. Freeze?
What?
Bennick Batch Cumberbatch.
He would totally, he would kill it.
Yes.
You could, oh.
He's got the voice.
And what's funny,
And
give him grayish hair. Don't let him keep the dark hair. Give him gray hair, like full blown, so he looks a little older. Make him some sort of, do the whole sciencey thing, man.
right, and he's very flat and very emotionless because you know that's kind of how
Whoever,
Mr.
I forget
Freeze
the
is.
name of the actor who did the voice for him in the Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah,
That
but that was really good.
was one of the best. He
And
spoke very cold, and it was
yeah,
very flat and
yeah. The
monotonous.
whole point of Mr. Freeze is that he's cold,
Yeah.
not that he makes puns about being cold.
No,
Nice to
totally.
see you, Batman. You know,
Yes. Oh my God, that was good.
but
Nice.
the but yeah, if
Oh,
you
no.
have someone like Benedict playing Mr. Freeze, you know, man, that could be freaking
I
awesome.
do, ABJ. I like how Freeze has been developed into a sympathetic character in the last decades. No, I agree. I think that it's funny, a comic
But
book.
Freeze's motivation, I believe, and if Darren's still here, he can correct me because Darren is the expert on this stuff. But and so I give credit where credit is due. Darren and I may go at each other's throats all the time, but he knows comic books like no one else.
Sure.
But my understanding, Mr. Freeze has always been motivated by trying to save his wife.
So that was a storyline that was invented by the guys during the Batman the Animated Series.
Okay,
And
so since the '90s, then
it was so iconic.
Right.
They rolled it into the comics and then later on into other things, and so it's become part of. It's such a wonderfully iconic motivation that they left it. The problem is some comic book fans have gotten real like, really guys, what are we doing? And then I think at one point in the comics they recently tried to backpedal that and be like, yeah, that's all made up. That's just something he said so people would feel sorry for him, but it's really just that he's a jerk and whatever else. And I was like, really? So I'm with you. I do like that story. I think that's a really good way to go about it.
And by the way, I think there's a difference between giving a villain a sympathetic motive and making a villain sympathetic.
Agreed.
You know, like I think with Miss
Sound Lab footage in Batman and
Oh
Robin,
yeah, that was so
falling
bad.
into the ice vat. That was classic. No, for real.
Well, I like the fact that Freeze actually, iced Robin, and Batman like picks him up like he's a piece of styrofoam, and then puts him in some warm water to defrost it.
That's right.
Man. But yeah, I don't mind them giving an interesting backstory to the villain. If we let me jumping over to Marvel, Thanos, right? We know in Infinity War exactly why Thanos is doing what he's doing, and there are even people to try to argue that he was right, even though he was not. But he was trying to do something good, but he was one of those people that didn't, he didn't have the morality to say, I need to do it the right way. He just said, here's the good goal. If there's a way to accomplish that goal, we're doing it. Doesn't matter what that goal is, what that method is. Right. Mr. Freeze is like that. He wants to save his wife, which is a good thing. But he's willing to kill and destroy an entire city to do it. That's not a good thing.
No, it's not. Well, my whole thing is what was because I'm sorry, he has henchmen and he's stealing stuff, and I'm like, why?
And I never got
stuff? What's the motivation there?
Yeah, and I love the fact this is like, granted, I know the Schumacher Batman films felt like they were modeled after the Adam West Batman, just like a bigger budget version of the Adam West Batman.
Yeah,
and because. The fact that and I don't, I apologize.
The credit card wasn't good enough.
Oh, jeez, my credit card. But no, I think about like I have more Marvel comics than DC in my collection by a long shot. Right but the idea that a diamond somehow makes your freeze gun work. Why? Because diamonds are referred to as ice.
That's like what's Two-Face having motivations only having to do with double things, duality things,
right?
The whole like Sagittarius idea.
Wait, it's the 2nd of February, so of course Two-Face will strike.
Yeah, legit. 2nd of February at the Second Bank of Gotham, and you're like, really? First off, where's the second? I've never heard of the Second Bank of Gotham. Okay, let's stop it. That's like second. There's no Second Baptist Church of wherever the heck. Okay, it's like
everything is first. Everybody wants to be first.
So I just think it's hilarious, but it's super funny.
So I want to see them bring in Calendar Man.
Planet X says I am going to watch Penguin, and
you should. It is
a wise decision.
Yeah, it is genuinely. I mean, and I don't say this often about shows that don't feature heroes. It is definitely worth watching.
They're doing good stuff. It's arguably one of the better shows on TV, whatever your version of TV is.
I think it's one of the best DC projects we've seen in years,
hands down. Absolutely. And it does. What's funny is it literally, if you watch the movie The Batman and then you jump into this.
Oh, yeah. It feels like you're just
very
continuing
nice.
On. Yeah.
They flow very well. So, all right. What is your overall feeling and thought about this? Would you want to do a rating of some sort?
I'll wait until the story's done.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You're doing your thing.
Serialized shows, I have a tough time rating individual episodes. However, it's still got my seal of approval. I'm still really enjoying the show. I am very much looking forward to next Sunday to watch the 3rd episode.
Nice.
And so that's the best compliment I can give to something is that I want to see the next episode, as opposed to I'm going to see it because we do a review of it.
No, it's totally fair.
Yeah.
Okay, then. So all right. So let's talk about the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the opponent of the Penguin. We're talking about Agatha All Along, the fourth episode. I genuinely enjoy it. Now I know why people aren't. I get it, because here's in real life, meaning not doing this. I never watched Desperate Housewives. I never watched any of those kinds of dramedy shows.
Right.
And this is very much channeling that energy. But I think that it's because of its connection to Agatha and how Agatha, and it's to WandaVision. And the fact is that it's very much a story that fits into a very specific place in terms of how it's being told. So when I watch it, I'm not looking for guys in costumes fighting in the high action and things that are very quick and quick cuts.
Right.
And all that. I'm watching for the dramedy of it all, and I'm enjoying it. I've had, like you said, I have to understand it's its own thing. And thank you again, Planet X, for the $10, another $10 super chat. I appreciate you so much.
Wait, which channel did you put that on, dude?
Look at you, like, which channel? I'll let you know if I appreciate it or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Is he being a jerk or is he being a good guy? Yeah.
No, you're good. Stanley, I love you. Stan keeps talking about Rings of Power. You hold that line, sir. Anyways, so I heard somebody said to me they went off. One of my commenters went off, and you can totally go check out my review from last one. Scroll down in the comments, you'll find it. I have every intention of doing a response video only because I felt like the comment, it didn't have merit, but it had, I saw where they were coming from, and they wanted to be like, I don't know why I care about all these women. I don't know why I didn't care about the Asian girl's family history. And that was when I tuned out, because I went, okay, you're clearly on a path, and I'm not going to argue with it because you got a goal in your mind. I don't normally watch these kinds of shows, meaning, like I said, the Desperate Housewives types, but I felt like don't you people? I feel like people have lost how storytelling works. There was a movie in the 90s. I think it was the Last Boy Scout or something, and it had Damon Wayans and Bruce Willis. And there's this moment where they get away from some people chasing them, and they go to Bruce Willis's apartment. And while they're in the apartment, dude looks at a picture and is like, I can't imagine you ever had a family, blah, blah, blah. And you get this heartfelt few minutes, because that's what movies used to do. Movies used to take time out to give you character development, and that's all you got, by the way. And it was a good, engaging story. It pulled you in. This is not just the Asian girl's backstory. It has to do with the fact that this spell exists, that this song her mom turned into this thing, and it's very intricate to how the story is fitting together.
Right.
Plus, we got introduced to Aubrey Plaza's character. They made a comment about why would you keep Aubrey Plaza? There it
What
is.
does that say? I can't read it.
Why is this the last episode of NerdFights?
Something with the lens.
Why is this episode of NerdFights?
Oh, it's Optimus. It's not the last episode of NerdFights. It's just the last episode on the Salty Trekker channel. Because if you look in the description, there are links to the official NerdFights channel, and you want to subscribe to that. We're gonna have all of our live streams will be there, and they'll be archived there for you to watch. And so,
we're in the process of moving them. I will get them all moved this week.
Yeah.
So we can have those there, and then your Salty Sugar channel, your channel, the other one will strictly be for your faith-based material.
Right. And it's Damon Wayans and Damian Wayne a coincidence? Yeah, I
think not.
You've never seen them at the same place at the same time. And by the way, Indy says the Drax actor, Dave Bautista from Guardians of the Galaxy could be a good Mr. Freeze. Only if you were remaking the Schumacher Mr. Freeze.
I agree. Although I can totally. I don't know if you saw him with remember his. Did you see him in Blade Runner 2049 or whatever?
Yeah, he was good. Don't get me wrong.
He had the glasses and he looks like he's been like dust covered, and I'm like, I can see him as this like haunted. But my whole thing is, why is a scientist buff? Maybe they exist.
Yeah, Mr. Freeze to me. Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger was miscast because Arnold Schwarzenegger would make a Bane. You know,
Hey, why didn't they do that?
Yeah.
Why did we get Bane in a rubber suit? Why
Yeah.
did we give Arnold just, dude, go out like hit? Anyway,
Yeah.
real quick, I don't want to get off this. Stanley said, guess I didn't understand the connection between the Rockstar Daughter's curse and the overall Agatha quest. Fair. My thing is I understand everyone's asking the question, well, why are we spending so much time on each character? The road is more than just the MacGuffin to get them to the end thing. The road is it's funny. It's one of the few times that an actual storytelling method is manifested into something literal.
Yes.
Because every story, it takes your characters down a road, and it's that road sees them evolve. Well, in this, both metaphysically and literally, the road requires something from you, whether it uses your own pain, your own stuff against you. And you're either going to pass or fail based on that. In this instance, Chicky had a curse following her. So the road was like, oh, sweet. Now all of you got to deal with that. How are you guys going to deal with this? It's either going to kill you or something better, or you're going to learn to overcome it. I do think you need some of this stuff to make things like the deaths happen. I know there was also a question about why in the world would you have Mrs. Hart's character exist? Was it supposed to be comic relief? No, I think her heart she was there to show us how callous Agatha was and to give us a barometer. Because I feel like by the end of the road, Agatha will no longer flippantly just toss people to die.
I think this is her redemption story.
Correct. And I feel like she was meant to callously be discarded and thrown away, and for everyone to look at Agatha like, dude, really? And her to be like, yeah, sure, whatever her name is. Sorry, I'm so bummed she died. Like, that's the purpose it served. It wasn't, it's all part of, they're telling us, it's funny, both these shows, Penguin and Agatha, are doing the one thing we beg these shows to do. They are showing us, not telling us. And that is huge.
And Agatha in particular is doing something that has been sorely missed in a lot of stuff, not just the MCU, and that is good, solid character development.
They're giving us a reason to care now.
Right. And Agatha has already changed, and I think that her change is just because if you look at like you were talking about Mrs. Hart or Sharon. My name is Sharon. But with Sharon, she at the beginning, Agatha was just like, oh yeah, I'll grab her, and she's
comes to Mrs. Hart.
Yeah,
she's like, oops.
Yeah, but Sharon was completely disposable meat as far as Agatha was concerned at the beginning.
She really was.
But when she died, you could see it affected her, and
even
so
she was like, what? Whatever, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I love that. What's her face? The diviner was like, I mean, let's be real. She downed 2 glasses. Okay, she wasn't worried all that much about. And because there is a measure of responsibility in all this stuff too. But yeah, no. And so Stanley points it out. They just don't seem to have time to do the backstories any justice. I agree with that, but also I think that we've been so programmed. I had a conversation online with a guy.
Oh, you faded out there.
Sorry, it's weird. You there?
Yeah, now you're better.
It and in it, he points out he's like, I don't know what is supposed to be. He was talking about the Penguin, and I had to point out, I was like, bro, we are so programmed that to be spoon fed, and it's like we didn't. I hate bringing it up, but it's the best worst example I've got. The Acolyte definitely gave us no reason to care.
Right.
It told us.
It told us to care.
It's like, I can't believe that really bad thing happened so long ago. Yes, if not for that really bad thing that happened so long ago.
You know what it reminds me of? And by the way, first of all, Aravic, yes, it was a long road to getting from there to here. But I
know exactly that reference.
Yes, so the writing in the Acolyte really reminds me of Attack of the Clones. In that, like, in the elevator ride, Obi-Wan and Anakin are like, oh, yes, we are good friends now. You remember that time that you rescued me? And it's like, I'd rather see the rescue scene.
I always say to those moments, stop telling me about a better movie. The Marvels did that.
Yeah.
My problem with the Marvels was that at every moment in that movie, they were talking about better sounding events, more interesting storylines. And I'm like, why didn't I get that movie?
Right.
Show me that movie and then bring us here. What the
And
heck?
that's why flashbacks can be such an effective tool.
Agreed. No, I
Or, it's funny because it's an old, like James Bond has been doing this for, 50 plus years. It's a very old tradition in Hollywood that, especially if it's an action franchise, you open it up with some kind of action sequence.
sure.
And then you introduce the story proper. And so, with something like Attack of the Clones, you open it up with Anakin rescuing Obi-Wan from the Gundarks.
And then they get the call to return to Coruscant.
Right.
Now
And now in the elevator he could say, "Yeah, I just pulled you out of that pit of Gundarks." So, and so now it makes more sense. And we got an
instead of
action
just
sequence.
throwing us into, hey, they're friends all because blah blah blah. It's come on.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you, sir. I agree. It's so funny. We're not very nerd fighting right now.
Yeah. But Agatha, I think, is doing a far better job. Now, is Agatha pound for pound as good as the Penguin?
Okay, no,
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
say no.
Yeah.
But it's a different thing.
And it's a
they're both
totally
doing-
different kind of show.
They're doing similar things in that they're not depending on the high octane nature of their category, i.e., comic book movies. So they're both depending on actually telling some kind of a story. Remember when I saved you from the trash compactor? Yeah, it's totally good.
Yeah.
Alex
That
Brody,
would have been a line if they wrote it that way for the original Star Wars.
totally been a line. Thank you, Alex, for the $4.99 super chat. Speaking of Batman, why did it take so long for Tim Burton to get Hollywood stars?
Okay, I can answer that.
Go for
Hollywood stars are not given out by Hollywood. Anybody can get a Hollywood star. You just got to pay them. And so some organization paid to have Tim Burton get a star. That's all it is.
Uh-huh.
And so it's not like
it costs
it's not-
$21,000 to submit your application, and the application is really just for them to say when they have time, and then and then there are costs related to it that you have to cover, including, by the way, the cost to make that that concrete block thing. Oh, it's a complete paid thing. Nobody just earns one. You pay to do that.
Yeah, it is not an award. It's not. No. There's no association of the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Right.
The Hollywood Walk of Fame is simply people bribing other people to put their name on the sidewalk.
So two quick things. Mrs. Know-It-All points out they're very different shows, both Agatha and Penguin.
Yes.
But they're telling great stories. Mrs. Know-It-All prefers Agatha over Penguin, but they're both great stories. So
I'm enjoying both, and
I agree.
yeah. And that's something that honestly, it's kind of funny because this sounds weird, but it's a very rare thing right now that a live action DC and a live action Marvel thing can be on at the same time, and I'm enjoying both of them.
Agreed. No, for sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things it's Halloween a month. It's October. Welcome to the scares and the creeps and all this stuff. Mrs. Know-It-All and I have a tradition. We watch certain movies. We're going to eventually watch Nightmare Before Christmas. We're going to watch some different stuff. And so we recently watched Practical Magic, that movie with Sandra Bullock, Nicole Kidman, a whole slew of really good actors. And it's about these young girl witches growing up in the whole bit and the curse their family deals with. And the one thing we noticed watching the movie, they had time to tell you backstory, this and that, and you sit here and you go, all of this feels really. I understand motivations, I get stuff. We're so used to action event to next action set piece to next one that when we see something like what Agatha and Penguin are doing, we sit here and go, this can't be right. Why is it so slow? And it's like, well, hold on. They're explaining stuff to you. They're painting the picture. So when you get to big weighty things, you go, oh my God, that's amazing. And yes, absolutely, Stanley. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Did you do it too?
Yeah,
you were there too. We know our audience, bro.
Yes. So,
I agree.
Look, when people start complaining about the casting on Agatha, it's an almost all female cast. Oh, look, they got the black woman, they got the Asian woman. They kind of hinted at Agatha and what's her name having a previous lesbian relationship. Stuff like that. And it's like,
See,
I
what's funny
don't
is
care.
what's hilarious is I don't know that I take it as a lesbian relationship. People want to by nature of what it is,
Yeah.
but I take it more like they just had a relationship. They were too old because I have a feeling neither one of them have shied away from the touch of a man before. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
I think at least I'm not getting that vibe. So I feel like overall they're very into one another because they've been there's a story there.
Well, they're
I don't know
also
that I would
hundreds and
label it
hundreds
as
of
that.
years old, and
Right. You get bored after a while.
Yes.
Just read the Vampire Diaries or whatever,
Yeah.
or Interview with
But
the Vampire.
yeah, but my point is that look, it's a story of a coven of witches.
Right.
And you cannot if you're going to focus on a coven of witches for any project, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're going to focus on a coven of witches as your main characters, they're going to be women.
Yes. What did you?
And if they're not women, then they're not really witches. They're warlocks. So
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Mrs. Know-It-All points out they could have been best friends. I love my best friend. I wouldn't kiss her like that, but I do love her. All right, y'all. I love Mrs. Know-It-All. Feel free to roast. I know my best. It's like, come here, Salty. Let me give you a big kiss.
Yeah, not gonna happen. We're not old school Italians, so yeah. No.
That's awesome. I'm sorry. If you had a scar, I would have found it. Well, then Agatha said, "You don't have any scars." Didn't that suggest she'd seen her entire body? I love you so much, Stan.
I was in the army, so I've seen lots of naked men. That doesn't mean that I was like into them.
No, for real. That's awesome. Mrs. Know-It-All points out, I am Italian, and we don't do that nonsense.
I said old school Italian.
Oh, God, I got you.
Yeah.
If you had a scar, I would have found it. God, I can't. That's my favorite line. Okay, I feel like that gets nominated as line of the day. If you had a scar, I would have found it.
Well, not necessarily on this body. Believe me, there are places it could hide. Yeah.
Oh man, but no. So again, seeing as they got through and then so finally they get through this thing in a fairly ingenious way. You get to your second song of the season, which I thought it was going to be like more musical. People were worried this was a musical show. It's literally the same. It's the Witch's Road song, just kind of a
different style
rock version.
Yeah.
And I think there's an extra verse, and the extra verse is what turned it into a protection spell.
Right.
And her mom was like, "Yeah, if the song is the most popular song in the world, then everyone will sing it. So that'll ultimately protect."
And every time someone sings the song, it reinforces the spell.
Yes.
Which is actually a really interesting idea.
Super, right?
To trick the whole world into casting a spell.
Yes.
So
much.
And believe me, there are songs that have been very popular songs that you could.
Can you imagine?
Right,
the
like
Beatles songs?
Hotel
were all
California. What if Hotel California was an entrapment spell?
Bro.
See?
Oh
like there's
God,
someone in California that's being held back.
Okay. Don't be giving the good stuff away. We'll talk stories after. Because I'm like, dude, I would love to write some of this stuff. You have no idea. That's a great idea. I love that whole thought process. So as they're continuing on, there's this. Oh my gosh! So Teen gets thrown through a glass window by the curse demon, and
almost
Agatha
killed.
wasn't the first one to his side, right?
Yeah.
She ran. And I think so. Then at the end of this whole thing, he's recovered, and they're all trying to help him. And she looks at what's her face, at Aubrey Plaza's character Rio, just as Jen Kale, the potions chick, is doing some stuff, and everyone's like, "Oh, you did it!" But then Agatha looks over, and Rio's like, "I don't know what happened." I'm telling you, I think Rio is deaf. And I think Rio was like, I spared him for you. Now, conversely, I've also heard people online say, that's Agatha looking at him like, don't you dare. So maybe she did have something. Because remember, when they're talking scars, what does Rio say? I had a scar. I have this person who I used to care for. I had to do my job, and that hurt them. And that's my scar.
Right.
They are and I was like, and that's when I looked at his note. I said, she is so deaf. I swear she's deaf.
So you think her job was to take her son from her?
Yes, like she had no choice. She had like, I got to do this. I'm sorry. Ugh.
But on the flip side, does that mean she's going to get with Thanos?
So no, remember, Death hates Thanos. She wants to
Well, it
push him
depends
off.
on when you're reading.
I know. There's times that she eggs him on, and there's times she's like, stop being a simp, and there's other times when she's like, if you really loved me, you do this. You know what I mean? And you're like, what is wrong with you?
Hey, Creep, how you doing?
Today, call it when you pine over a woman, or pine over someone.
So yeah, I think that. So I again, just like with
Creep. What's up, buddy?
I think just like with Penguin, this is a show that's got me looking forward to the next episode.
It really does. Death is a tease, he says.
Yeah, well.
Are you opening something up in a plastic bag?
No, that would be the dog attacking.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm just like, at least, like, if I was taking a sandwich out.
What are you doing? She grabbed a spool of yarn. Oh, man. There's yarn everywhere.
It's literally going to look like she made one of those things on the floor.
Yes. Hey! Yeah, you leave that yarn alone.
Stan is great. I love Stan. Death is a tease. And welcome, Creep, on that note. Death is a tease. So,
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
That sounds like it could be a rock song right there.
It totally does. That should be a rock song.
Like some kind of goth band would do that.
Oh, my God. So much.
Yeah.
But overall, though, okay, I am also, again, both shows have me thinking, what do you want from, so here we go. I think the last round, went to Agatha. I think this round goes to Penguin. I think Penguin this week was a better episode. They're both wonderful.
Yeah.
I think it was a better episode. And
only because this week's Agatha was kind of it almost seems like a house of the week now.
Somebody else said that, and
yeah.
I kind of have to agree.
I don't have a problem with that, but it is a little formulaic. And so as soon as they saw another house, I'm like, okay, so they're going to go into this house, have another trap, deal with it, and then they'll move on to the next house next week. And, and which is not a bad formula.
Sure.
But formulas have the disadvantage of being formulaic.
Creep says, I'm in both your channels. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you being in my channel. He said, but I'm on Salty's chat. See, so just
Yeah, but what matters is where you put the super chats, because some people put them in the wrong channel.
That's right.
And those people are going to get.
There she is.
Oh, it's Mrs. Know-It-All. Hey.
How are ya?
Good.
Everybody, we're talking about Agatha.
Yes.
I know you've been hearing everything.
I
know.
So she came up because she has to say something?
Probably.
No, I don't.
Okay.
It's fun listening to y'all banter about it. It really is. Two men about witches.
Let me tell you about these witches, all right? I know something.
Yeah.
Right on.
We know all about witches. We're both married.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Absolutely.
All right. Bye, guys.
Appreciate you. Right on. She wanted to poke her head. She's like, hey, you guys mind if I come out? I said, yeah, man, come on. Death is a tease by the mythical all-girl rock band Vicious Dishes. Indie Tiger, I'm down. I love it.
Yes, Frank. Yes, I know.
Okay, fine. We've now reached, now that we've talked the show, let's get into some of this fun stuff. You guys, this is your show, the back half of this, after we've talked about the topics at hand. Let's hear what you guys got. We're going to literally go into the chat, and this is our conversation time. And yes, totally, Stanley. Mrs. Know-It-All, lady splains all the time, and I don't mind. So Eric said you should do a brief explanation of the triple timeline. Is there such a thing as a brief explanation of the triple?
Sure, it's very, very simple. And this is not the whole thing. This is just like I'm still drafting it out.
Oh, we will have a more exhaustive version coming.
Yes,
soon.
yes. So the top one that you can barely see, the red one here, is what we would normally call the prime timeline, but I call it timeline alpha. The second one here is timeline beta. The third one down here is appropriately timeline Kelvin.
Pause. Big news. Penny, my granddaughter was born about 25 minutes ago. Congratulations,
Awesome.
Penny.
Congratulations, Penny.
Sorry, we just wanted to make sure and call that out. Continue, please.
Did she subscribe to the channel yet?
Did she make sure you go to the new nerd? Mrs. Know-It-All says, yay, from the other room.
New subscribers being born. And don't forget to put in, that she needs a super chat.
100%.
Yeah.
You should right. You send us a super chat in celebration of the new granddaughter. It's how they
Right.
work. I don't know. I don't make the rules. I just enforce them.
Right. So Timeline Alpha, this branch that comes down and creates Timeline Beta. This event is the Romulan incursion that we have now seen in Strange New Worlds. The Romulans basically preventing Khan from launching in 1996.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And that's why right here we have the Botany Bay, launched in 1996. Down here we have Baby Khan that we saw somewhere between 2025 and 2030.
Baby Khan.
Yeah. And so
Oh,
since...
I want.
Yeah, Baby Khan.
He gets a tattoo because now he's
Yeah.
like in the new generation. He's that guy.
Yes.
Baby Khan.
Yeah, so Baby Khan. And then right here we have the Kelvin event where Nero went back in time,
Yep.
creating a branching timeline, which is
See,
the Kelvin.
I'm about to
timeline.
complicate your world, though. We should have this conversation offline at some point.
Yeah.
I got you. You almost have to do. Here's the. It almost because the timeline would actually not be 3 timelines. It would be a weird U-turny deal, because that prime timeline has to take us to the eventual when the Romulans do their thing, and now they go down here and restart.
Oh, that's what's coming. I'm working on
Okay.
because what's going to happen? You can't see it; it's slightly off the screen here. But right here, I have the Hobus supernova in the prime timeline.
Why do I actually like that? Wasn't sarcasm. I am genuinely fascinated right now.
Yeah. So the Hobus supernova, Spock goes back in time, but remember, okay, so the prime timeline cannot change.
I swear, I'm going to get that video of from It's Always Sunny, so that when you start going off like this, I can just play it where dude's like, "No, really? So this is the whole thing." It's just,
It all makes sense,
going
really.
off.
Yeah.
I love it.
So with the Hobus supernova, Spock goes back in time, but because you cannot change the prime timeline, he ends up in the beta timeline, which is why the Kelvin timeline is an offshoot of the beta timeline, not the prime timeline. Because it is consistent with some physicists believe that if you could travel backwards in time, you wouldn't be going backwards in time; you would just be hopping into another dimension.
Right, and in fact, because you would, by virtue of leaving your timeline, you're going back to a point in the past, but not necessarily your point in the past.
Exactly.
Because in your original universe, you didn't do that, or things would have turned out differently.
Baby Con, thank you for the $10, Indy. Baby Con sounds like a great rapper name. Yeah. Yo, man, eugenics, boy.
If that's not the next song, oh yeah, we got music coming. Bro, if you don't do a Baby Con eugenics rap song, you don't have a hair on your face. Okay, you need to do that.
Well, you still haven't worked on any of the videos that I've been.
That's okay.
I
Stop.
haven't even seen them.
I will watch them. I promise. There's very funny stuff coming. I promise. We're working on some neat things.
But yes, so now you want me to do Con as a rap artist, huh?
Baby Con, Baby Con. Let's go. I love it.
You're just...
I love it. But yeah, no, the triple timeline. So we're actually, it's funny, when we got together for Star Trek Nash, I set up
After we kissed.
That's right, because that's what best friends do.
Yes.
And so we salty ice. Stop it, Lee. And we set up the cameras. We got everything going, and he did. I said, walk me through it exhaustively. I don't want you to leave anything out. And he did just that. And so I'm working on putting together sort of a video essay / short film documentary style about this theory, and it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting. I think you'll like it. I think you guys are going to like it once we do release it. And it's going to be one of the first big things that goes on the new channel, not the new NerdFights channel, but his Salty Plus channel.
The Salty Plus network.
Yes.
Of all the Plus networks, this is the saltiest.
That's right. I love that so much.
And that's actually, I came up with Salty Plus because that was right when Disney Plus and then Paramount Plus, because it used to be CBS All
and then
Access.
Apple TV Plus, and you're like, stop.
Yeah. I'm just getting tired. And why is everything Plus?
For real. Oh my God. Armor Sandovar says, and Baby Con's sidekick would be Gangsta Vulcan dude with the big Edict necklace chain.
Oh man, that would be so perfect. You know
what?
It'd be, and since he's a Vulcan.
Excuse me while I go to Mid Journey and try to see if I can play with this.
Wait, you ready for this?
Go for it.
sidekick is named Flava Less.
I hate you so much. That's awesome. So go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So,
Say logic. Oh
but
my
yeah,
god!
so
Did it say logic in big letters?
yeah.
Yes, it absolutely would.
So this is still a work in progress. But my goal here, because what I started doing was just printing out actual pictures of the various events so that I could lay it out and be a little more careful about it. Because before I've like written it down, I've talked about it, but this way I can try to avoid missing anything. And eventually I'm going to have all the, because I actually have this really long wall that I'm thinking about covering in corkboard and making a full-length timeline out of. But some things will need to line up, so that's why it's hard to see because these pictures are so small. But right here, I have the original Enterprise from the original series. Directly below it, I have the Enterprise from Strange New Worlds. And directly below that, I have the Enterprise from Star Trek 2009. Because all those existed at the same time in their respective timelines. And so I want to try to align things. Like, obviously, for example, Discovery after the jump forward would be the furthest thing forward. But then we also, thanks to Discovery, as much as people like to malign Discovery, and I'm definitely one of them, but Discovery did fill in some lore holes, if you will, once they jump forward, because they kind
Do
of
not search lore holes.
don't search lore holes. You will find some bad things.
You'll not get anything good, I promise.
Yeah. But, for example, they talked about when the temporal wars happened and stuff like that, because Discovery takes place post-temporal wars now, after the jump. And so that way we can approximate when the Romulans went back in time in order to alter the past, creating the beta timeline. And I think it's going to be fun.
Nice, dude.
Where does the Nexus timeline fit in? Well, the Nexus... That's actually funny. Funny you should mention the Nexus, because I do believe that the Nexus event, the destruction of the Enterprise D, if you will, I would create a theory that that's the last time we saw the Prime timeline.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and that everything post Star Trek Generations is in the beta timeline, and obviously the Kelvin timeline for the stuff that came after 2009. And that helps with some of the problems that I had. Like, for example, if the Enterprise E goes back in time with the Borg, why is it that that's not a separate branch off of the Prime timeline? Because right here... So we have the NX-01 in the beta timeline. And then right below it, I put Borg found in 2152, triggering Alpha Quadrant arms race, which is a big part of the beta timeline, why technology looks different in it. Now, if the Enterprise E, F, G, etc. are all in the beta timeline, then that's fine, as long as the and the Enterprise D is looked at as kind of a relic in Star Trek Picard. So
I'll go with that.
Yeah. So there you go. That's plus in Star Trek Picard season 1, and this is kind of important to think about. Is that in Star Trek Picard season 1, Picard, when he went to Starfleet Command, looked at a hologram of the Enterprise D, and then it morphed into a hologram of the original Enterprise, but that original Enterprise was the Strange New Worlds variant, not the original series variant.
Well, and by the way, this is still the brief description. Just saying.
Yeah. So
just throwing it out there for you.
The funny thing is, it's like there's so much there that we can talk about, and like I could literally make this corkboard 50 feet long and probably still run out of room. Yeah.
I'm going to now show you a picture because I just finished it. I'm gonna put it on the thing real fast. Give me a second.
Is this like Bruce Wayne's spaghetti for the timelines?
You're hilarious. No, it's not.
I hate that, by the way, the whole spaghetti explanation from the Flash.
I never understood that myself.
Because the idea that and DC, don't get me wrong, DC has been doing this for a while, is that like they say, for example, let's say you go to this point in time
Yeah.
and create a branching timeline, right?
Okay.
They say you create a branching timeline in both directions. So somehow, not only do you change the future from this point, you also somehow have changed the past from this point in a separate timeline, which makes no freaking sense whatsoever. Oh, is that little Spock there?
It is.
Or little baby Con?
That's right. His baby Conness. There we
Now,
go.
all you need is for the one behind him
It's supposed to be
point
the
it-
ink symbol. It's supposed to be behind him. I did my best.
Yeah.
That's Baby Con the rapper. And it's supposed to be like a Vulcan-y kid, but it made I didn't have time to find it. It ended up making him also a child.
Try making him an elf rather than Vulcan
That's smart.
and see if that works.
That's awesome.
So, where you using one of those wonderful AI programs.
Yeah, use Midjourney real quick. I was like, let me jump on Midjourney real fast, see what I can come up with in seconds with no fine tuning whatsoever.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, that was awesome. So I love that.
That looks like it should be an album cover right there.
It totally should be an album cover. I'm telling you, man, we should do some fun stuff. You know, you have a real future in that music thing.
Yeah, well, the problem is everybody here thinks that rap isn't really music.
But then they don't think poetry is anything special either.
Yeah, I know.
All right. So, what else is going on in the world? Wonderful world. Oh, okay. Have you bothered? Do you watch the Rings of Power at all?
You know what? I want to, but I just, yeah. Oh, and I know Yuckster asked earlier, and thank you, Yuckster. I apologize for not getting to you. I was asking how the wife is doing. She's doing okay, but she's still the neurologist won't clear her to drive for a while because she had one seizure, and so, and because of that, like today on a Saturday, I would normally get up, relax a little bit, have some coffee, and then join Mr. Know-It-All for the live stream. But no, I had to get up like 3 hours earlier so I could take my daughter to her thing that she does Saturday mornings because I'm everybody's transportation now. Last night, my son had a thing that went from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. So, of course, who has to go? Me. And then I got to sit around for 5 hours waiting for him to do this thing that he was doing with a group of guys. Which I spent that time driving some Uber because, killing time. And then it was the worst experience ever because I had like 3 scammers in a row, which was just really annoying.
Really?
Yeah, people. Okay, when I say scammers, it's not like it's not like those stupid videos on YouTube where they cancel the ride midway through. That's a little more difficult to do. But what they do is, for example, let's say that you want to go to the store and then have me wait for you and go home, right?
Right.
You can absolutely do that. And what happens is while you're in the store, Uber actually, kind of like a taxi cab, Uber will charge you by the minute that I'm waiting.
Really?
Yes.
Ooh, that's new.
And so it's not a lot. It's like
No, I got you.
it's like 11 cents a minute or something. And so the problem is that what people do, this is I'm teaching everybody now how to scam Uber, is you accidentally make it so that it's telling you to go to their home first rather than going to the store first. And then the driver, if they're a nice person like myself, will go ahead and stop at the store, but the timer doesn't run because it thinks you're on their way to their house.
That's so. How in the world did they figure that out?
Right.
Like that is super
So it's a way to avoid
smart.
paying. Yeah, it's a way to avoid paying that. And the thing is, if you were just screwing over Uber, the company,
No,
I
yeah.
could almost understand. But you're screwing over the driver,
No, yeah, that's not good.
And then there's the next guy I had actually was like, oh yeah, here's where I'm going, and then we're halfway there. He's like, oh, I need to go to this other place,
Surprise,
I
surprise.
and it's like, look, you can go into the app and change your destination, but and this is how you know you got a scammer. If you got a 20-year-old in your car who can't figure out how to use the app to change their destination, they are lying to you.
Agreed.
You know, and so this guy couldn't manage to figure out how to change it so that he could get so his what should have been like a $30 trip was $20 because he had it end early, and so and I had this happen 3 times back to back while my son was in his thing, and I was so angry because it's like everybody's just a jerk today. Not to mention there were accidents everywhere, so it slowed me down. And the reason there were accidents everywhere is because Nashville's having Oktoberfest this weekend.
Ooh, Oktoberfest. Babe, we need to go to Oktoberfest. Sorry, I was talking to I know she's watching, so I was talking to my wife.
Yeah.
I'm
not your babe, but yeah.
Forget the show. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
This just became my wife and I's speakerphone, her video chat.
Right. So that
Aravek, Mrs. Know-It-All wanted to point out, because I put your thing up about Logic, you're liking Logic the rapper, that he wrote a book that Baby Know-It-All reads, and she highly recommends. It's called Supermarket, and it's an excellent book. Literally, and it was written by Logic, and it's amazing. It's a very good psychological thriller that if you have anything to do with Logic or like those kind of books, I would definitely recommend. So yeah, good call.
Yeah. So and the funny thing, so Stan puts the joke that's when you have to do a lot of emergency braking. But here's the problem: if you're a driver like me, and I will tell you, this is something that I take seriously. You have a really high rating. Like if you look at my profile, like if you happen to get me as your driver, it'll say I'm a 5-star driver, perfect scores. That my driving is known to be really good because the app actually monitors how you drive. So if you start slamming on the brakes a lot, the app knows it.
That's interesting.
And it will change your rating. And if your rating goes below a certain threshold, then you lose priority in the queue.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that I set that.
Yeah, I posted on every channel.
Everybody. So every channel just got that comment. Sorry.
That's all right.
The book is called Supermarket.
Yeah.
Go on. Real quick, Indie Tiger Sci-Fi Review said Resurrected Starships just put out a video about the Galaxy-class starship is meant to be a mobile starbase, which I did a video on 2 years ago.
Yes.
And that's because take away from, go back into the archives. You'll find great new content.
Well, yeah, and by the way, so, that seems like grounds for a lawsuit, Indy.
In today's day and age, stop it. But no, I definitely think I love that. I love that whole I need to go look at that video up, dude. Only because I was a huge fan of the Galaxy class starship. I always thought it was because I remember me and my friends we used to.
You like the fat one?
I love the fat one. And so,
by the way, you can't really see it, but right here, I'm gonna pull this off the board for a second so you can see it.
He's gonna literally shove it in front of the camera. Yeah. Look. Oh, I love that. Good stuff.
And it even says,
look how much trouble he went to. He uses the right font and everything.
Yes, but it's the fat one.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, no, so yeah, you do, Stan. Stan says he loves the D. And so but I remember the first time I was like, how many people are on this ship? Like, because I know the original ship, it's funny, I heard in the original, it was like 100 and so many people. 200 and so many people. In the movie, it was like, we can only hold 400 people. And I'm like, bro, can anyone tell me why this ship keeps gaining size and like space capacity? And then the Galaxy class, and it was like, we only have room for 400 people, 1,000 people. We can have the 4,000 people. And it's like, bro, how big is this ship?
Although, now, to be fair, and this is absolutely true. So, Galaxy class.
Thanks, by the way, Andy, I'm going to grab that link. Thank you.
If you look at the Constitution class, the original Enterprise from the original series, right?
Right.
Which is the second smallest version of the Enterprise we've ever seen, because the NX-01 is the only one smaller.
Right.
And that ship is roughly the size of a Ronald Reagan class aircraft carrier. And a Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier has like 5,000 sailors on it, compared to the 420 crew on a Constitution class.
Wow.
So what you don't realize is how tightly they're packed in the room.
No, that's true, because you remember those crew, they had bunks that were like closets.
Right.
It wasn't like a full-blown, like, it's not like the Galaxy class starships
Yeah,
rooms that
these ships are in, and that's why, like, when people were going off on the size of Pike's quarters in Strange New Worlds, I
Yeah.
was like, look, you got 400 people on a ship that should hold 5,000. So Pike having luxurious quarters, the captain's quarters. If you look at the captain's quarters on an aircraft carrier, they look like a luxury apartment.
My thing is,
And
why does he have an open flame on a ship?
yeah, I'm convinced that is a hologram.
Me, it's got or something because I'm like, dude, where is that heat going?
Yeah.
Where is that little exhaust chimney deal going? Stop it, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be so funny. We see the Enterprise and there's like smoke coming out of it. It looks like a train going by.
So
Go to warp 5.
All the tailpipes. We got it. We got it. That's exactly what it is.
That's gonna be the new sound effect for the Enterprise going to warp.
Yeah, I love that the extra rooms for like migrating people, handling planetary evacuations, all that stuff. Stanley points out, which is absolutely correct. So that's all.
So yeah, and I know that I get it that at least Star Trek has a sense of scale.
It's true.
Because if you look at the NX has a crew of 100 and something.
Yeah.
The Constitution originally under Pike had like 200 and something, then under Kirk had 400. The Enterprise D has around 1,000, and if you look at the size of the Enterprise D, that makes sense.
Yep.
The Enterprise E, actually, if I remember correctly, has a smaller crew, like around 700,
Yeah.
which also makes sense given the size. So
That's why I never understood why Voyager had suddenly only it was like 100 and some odd crew or something.
because Voyager is actually a small ship, that's what you don't realize.
You really don't. It's hard. Again, that's my only issue is sometimes when you're looking at the ships, that's one thing I loved about Picard when they showed the museum. You got to go, oh, that's how big all these ships are relative to one another.
Right, Voyager is
parked around.
tiny
Yeah.
compared to a Galaxy class. Now Voyager is about the size of a Connie, if I remember correctly, but it has fewer decks.
Right, and
Because
it's
it's
also
more
very
flat.
utilitarian. Like it doesn't have all the the creature comforts,
Right. Yeah, because it was not meant as a
deep exploration.
yeah.
It wasn't meant to go across the galaxy.
Except for when the script says that it is, but that's one of those weird things. But Voyager.
Captain Taylor says Voyager was around the size of the original Enterprise. Is that true?
Yeah. Yes. Voyager is
Okay.
not that far off from the original Enterprise. And I actually really dig the design of. If that's what the Enterprise D looked like, was what Voyager looks like, I would not have complained at all about the look of the Enterprise in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I only liked it because I felt like it felt futuristic from the futuristic we've gotten. I'm not talking about just design think and production value like 60s versus whatever.
No. I know.
I was like, oh, this is their future. I get it.
Right.
That's like my issue with, honestly, that's my issue with Discovery's future ships is that I feel like they went beyond sci-fi to almost magic. Because you've got like
not almost, they're straight up magic.
Nacelles that are just they're there by energy, and I'm like, how many times has energy knocked out the ship? So you get hit with an energy blast, unless you guys have suddenly you don't ever face that kind of thing anymore. And
Right.
what? Now your nacelles are floating off into space by themselves?
It makes no sense. Yeah, if you have a power failure on the on Discovery after they go to the future, the warp nacelles just float off.
I love that. Armac says Voyager grew on me, but it took a while because of the lack of a neck.
Yes, and I can understand that. Voyager was
saucer on top of the body.
Yeah, it looks like a shovel.
Yeah, totally.
And Indy is backing me up. Thanks, buddy. Because Indy Tiger, just so you know, he was a Navy man.
I love it. Look at that. I love this. He's back. I did look up the captain's quarters in aircraft carrier recently, and they are really luxurious compared to the captain's quarters on the destroyers and other capital ships.
Yeah.
Right on. How's
And
that?
an aircraft carrier is roughly the size of the Enterprise, of the original Enterprise. So
The NX-01 looked more futuristic than the TOPS Enterprise. That's because it's from an alternate timeline.
yeah, exact creep.
You gotta tell him.
Look at the board.
You got to tell him. Tell
Look,
him the thing.
NX-01 is in the beta timeline right here.
Tell him why. What you discovered.
Well,
You were watching the movies and watching the show again.
Well, for one thing, okay. So one thing that doesn't make sense if you're looking at the canonical events of Enterprise versus all the other Treks.
Yep.
No Romulan war, ships too advanced, the technology. Spock very, very meticulously describes the tech from the Enterprise era in Balance of Terror. And the Enterprise, the NX-01 should not have phasers. It should not have photon torpedoes. It should basically have nuclear missiles for its primary weapons. And the drive should not be a matter-antimatter reactor. It should be a nuclear reactor. This is straight out of Balance of Terror. They didn't even have visual communication technology at this point. It should look like what's right above it. The actual Enterprise from the prime past is the ring ship. That's what the Enterprise should have looked like.
Hang on one second. There you go. Now preach.
Okay, yeah. So the ring ship is
I
right
want to
here.
see everything. Let me get the logo out the way. Turn that logo. Hide that. There you go.
Okay. So ring ship up here, NX-01 here, and then this is where they find Borg, which actually sparks an arm race to go make the ships more advanced, which is why we end up with ships like Discovery and the Enterprise from Strange New Worlds.
Schooled.
The question mark here is because we don't know what happens in between Strange New Worlds and the 32nd century entirely. The 32nd century is off the edge of the screen here.
You can't see it, but Creepa has a shocked emoji. That's right. I know. He calls me up, and I'm like,
yeah. So in the prime time, we had the Botany Bay, the ring ship, the original Enterprise from Star Trek. I just put a picture of Khan there because I have Khan in all three timelines.
Baby Khan.
Then the Enterprise D. In the beta timeline, we have Baby Khan, NX-01, the Kelvin, which branches down here because of Nero, the Strange New Worlds Enterprise, and then way over here we have the Discovery A. And then because of the Kelvin incident down here, we have the J.J. Abrams designed Enterprise, Benedict Batterlatch as Khan, and then we don't know what happens after that, because we've only had the 3 movies in this timeline and really nothing else. But
I like it.
The reason I like the triple timeline so much is because it just all fits.
It really does. No, for real. It's brilliant.
And it explains almost every major plot hole in Trek.
I agree.
So and that's what, yeah. With cars, it's horsepower versus wind resistance. I'm not sure what you're talking about there.
We're
but
talking about Captain Jailer. How is it about Warp 5 that made it tougher barrier to exceed? And then he uses the comparison that with cars, it's horsepower versus wind resistance.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, with electric cars, the wind resistance is real, bro.
Really?
You can absolutely measure it.
Crazy.
Because if I'm driving strictly like in the city, stop and go traffic, on a battery charge, I can get about 300 miles. If I hit the freeway, 200 miles.
Wow, I never thought I would never.
And it's all because the thing about battery
than hills.
Yeah. Well, the thing about battery powered cars is that since they are like 90-something% efficient,
Yeah.
you don't like with gas burners where you lose all the money is idling and acceleration.
Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't lose anything with that because on a battery powered car, when you're idling, nothing's happening. It's just not using any electricity. And when you're accelerating, because it's 90% efficient, you're not really losing much. And so it's, and when you slow down because of regenerative technology, you regain a lot of what you spent when you accelerated. So it's kind of a wash. But wind resistance at high speeds kills you. Absolutely buries your economy. Now, as far as, the Warp 5 barrier, one thing to look at is that the nacelles on the Enterprise NX-01 are microscopic compared to the 1701. And because you don't get that sense of scale, except for if you watch the 2-part episode In a Mirror Darkly. It's the only time you really see both at the same time. And you'll realize that the nacelles on the 1701 are like 3 times longer than the nacelle, I'm not looking, on the nacelles on the NX-01. And And in fact, and I know you haven't seen it yet, Mr. Know-It-All. I'm looking forward to when we get to watch it together.
Mm-hmm.
But the second Trip saw the 1701 while he's sitting on the NX-01, he's like, holy crap, look at the size of those warp coils. I'll bet that thing could do warp 6.
That's hilarious.
You know? And so that's because he's an engineer, so he gets it. You need, just like with cars, you need an exponentially bigger engine to go faster and faster and faster. So that's why, like, if you have if all things being equal, a 6-cylinder engine isn't 50% faster than a 4-cylinder engine, right? It's more like maybe 10, 20, 30%, depending on how it's tuned. A V8 is not twice as powerful as a 4-cylinder necessarily, assuming they're same scale size, like a V8 that's, tuned exactly the same as a V4. And that's why you have little 4-bangers that just zip along, and you have 8-cylinder engines from like the 50s, 60s, 70s when everything had a V.
I didn't do it. I swear I didn't do it. Wait, you there?
And
Wait, you're back.
I know it sounds weird right now because, okay.
That's okay, you're back.
Can you hear me okay now?
Salty's
Hello?
teaching us to read lips. And I heard you. I can hear you now. I can hear
How
you
about
now.
now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Oh, I can't hear you now.
I can hear you.
So now you're muted.
I'm
I don't
not
know what
muted.
that.
Am I muted?
You
Yeah,
are
please
absolutely.
You know what?
Wow. I have no idea what happened. I just unplugged
Literally,
my
as you're
microphone from the USB and plugged it back
talking,
in.
it disappeared.
Yeah, but I think it actually might have been to Pring because she hopped down right before it happened. She might have bumped the audio cable or something.
That's why I don't let the
But
puppy-
you are completely muted to me. I can't hear you at all.
That's weird.
Can you see, like when you talk, does a little microphone thing indicate audio coming through?
Everybody else in the comments, tell me if you can hear me.
You're gonna have to
we can hear
sign a
both of
reply
you.
because I can't tell. Oh, Arabic says they can hear both of us. Great. So we just can't hear each other.
No, I can hear you. I can hear you.
You can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, so I just can't hear you.
Yes.
Which is fine because what he says is irrelevant anyway.
That's awesome.
No,
Creep,
I can't hear you
I
either,
hear
Creep. Why can't... hold on, let me check the audio
both
output
said it.
on this.
We both said it. That's hilarious. Okay,
audio.
so no, this is cool. He'll figure that thing
It
out.
says...
So at the end of the day,
there we go.
What I've loved the most about working since I heard about the timeline thing, it was such a. It was. I remember the minute you told it to me, I was blown away.
So the output is.
What is going on with this? This is such a fascinating. And why is nobody in like Star Trek proper even bothered addressing it? I feel like that's brilliant. That whole idea of the triple timeline and how those things function. It's like, guys, this fixes everything.
Yes.
And keep everything.
I can hear you, by the way, but
Okay,
it's,
cool.
it's just kind of coming through weird on the.
Yeah, it's like delay. That's okay. Now he's good. See, now you can show you have a point though.
So, Mr. Epic Echo. Yeah, the problem is there a way to do echo cancellation in here?
Yes, there is. You can go into your audio settings.
Let's see.
Yeah, and then it'll work. It's how I listen. I listen to you on the speakers.
Yeah.
Echo bounce back is good.
How about now?
Perfect. You're good.
So.
Now Mr. Know-It-All is echoing. No, I'm not. You be quiet, Arvik. No,
Well, you probably were while I was messing
no,
around.
I did. No, I did. I totally did. But
So-
yeah, no. Again, the triple timeline theory has always been something that really fascinated me. I thought it was such an interesting. It's such an interesting exploration of sort of the consistency of inconsistencies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like how consistent it is that they
Well,
are.
that's why I came up with it. It's like there's got to be a way, and this is what us fans do. Is when we start doing fan theories, it's because we're trying to explain plot holes, basically.
And that's what I explained to my wife. I was like, you don't understand. Other than comic book fans, Star Trek people, we can explain some crap away.
Yeah.
We know how to make stuff. We'll make it make sense. Okay, and sometimes it sounds like bull crap, but when I heard the triple timeline there, I was like, this is the holy grail. This makes the most sense. And yes.
And Alex Kurtzman, come on, buddy, right here.
Let's do it.
You know, I'll work for scale, buddy.
Watch him be like, we call this the cubed timeline. And we're like, you son of a... Bye, Penny. Take care. Good luck with the granddaughter. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. And remember, babies are best sautéed.
I hate
not
you
deep fried.
so much. Don't forget, guys. Again, before because we're getting close to the end of this thing today. I just want within a few minutes. I want to be make sure you all know. Do not expect to see Nerd Fights on the usual place that you might have watched it.
Yeah, subscribe to the new Nerd Fights channel, please.
At Nerd Fighting. So youtube.com/@nerdfighting. Yeah. That is where it'll still be on the Salty Plus and it'll still be on Mr. Know-It-All because we're simulcasting. But the actual home of Nerd Fights is now youtube.com/@nerdfighting.
Yeah. And what we'll probably try, assuming that I can put something together between now and next Saturday, it's like I'll post a video on my channel next week as just a reminder. Hey, no live stream here. Go to that.
That's right. Go over there.
So what do you have going on this week?
Who, me?
Yeah.